Welcome to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in today because we are exploring a deeply fascinating, honestly pretty misunderstood topic: why our brains sometimes make us laugh at our own pain. Seriously, have you ever wondered why, in the absolute darkest moments of your life, your instinct isn't always to break down and cry, but sometimes to just crack a joke? Well, today we're going to unpack the hidden psychology behind dark humor and trauma.
So, picture this. You're talking about something incredibly painful in your life. You drop a really dark joke, and suddenly, the entire room gets completely silent. Everyone is uncomfortable, and you're just standing there kind of laughing to yourself. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? It's that visceral, intensely awkward moment where you've essentially just cleared a room with a punchline about your own trauma. People are shifting in their seats, they're suddenly actively avoiding eye contact with you, and you're left feeling like a total alien.
See, there's this massive gap between public perception and clinical reality. When you drop that dark joke, most of society looks at you and thinks, wow, they are morbid, emotionally detached, or just totally insensitive. They might even pull you aside and tell you to take things more seriously. But psychology reveals something entirely different. What looks highly inappropriate on the outside is rarely a sign of cruelty. Actually, it is a highly advanced survival strategy. Your brain is executing a brilliant, real-time emotional defense mechanism. You aren't broken at all. Your mind is simply trying to protect you. And to really understand why we do this, we have to look at the biological hardware of our bodies. Which brings us to Section 1, venting the nervous system. We're talking about what happens inside your nervous system. In literally a fraction of a second, an incredible chain reaction goes off. Boom. Step 1, emotional tension peaks. You hit a painful memory or a stressful trigger. Next, your nervous system is suddenly flooded with pressure, and it actively seeks a quick release. It desperately needs a pressure valve. So, what happens? You make a dark joke. And that simple action instantly activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's rest and digest system. It physically pumps the brakes on your stress response. And finally, your stress immediately lowers. When you're dealing with a heavy memory, laughing is quite literally your brain's absolute fastest way to physiologically regain balance. In clinical psychology, this kind of nervous laughter is linked to a defense mechanism called displacement. It's when underlying raw fear, shock, or anxiety comes out as nervous laughter simply because it can't be safely expressed right then and there. The crucial takeaway here is that the underlying emotion you're feeling, it's very real. It's terror or grief or shock. But your brain takes a quick look at the environment and says, we absolutely cannot safely express that raw feeling right now. So it displaces it. Your mind vents the extreme pressure through a joke just so you don't completely break down on the spot. So now that we know the biological hardware, let's look at the cognitive software. Section 2, the cognitive shield. This brings us to a really fascinating concept known as cognitive distancing. Basically, it's the act of intellectualizing your feelings by using logic, or in our case, sharp wit, to manage emotional experiences instead of just feeling the raw emotions fully. And highly intelligent individuals do this all the time. When you make a sarcastic or morbid comment about a traumatic event, you are actively building a barrier between yourself and the pain. Instead of expressing the raw agony, you just explain it or reframe it entirely through a punchline. You're throwing up a cognitive shield to protect yourself against total emotional overwhelm. But this builds into something super tricky in our everyday lives. We call it the intimacy disconnect. Yes, this brilliant cognitive shield protects you from overwhelm, and yes, it actively creates a barrier to the pain. But ironically, it can also completely block emotional intimacy with others. It's the tragic paradox of dark humor. The very tool keeping you safe often causes massive friction with people who mistake your safe release for genuine emotional detachment. They perceive you as distant. But the reality is far different. Your mind perfectly understands the pain. Your heart is just trying to release it safely. You aren't detached at all. You're just surviving. And there's another incredible dynamic at play here too. Let's move to Section 3, shrinking the trauma. I want you to think of dark humor as a quick mental reboot. Honestly, it's like hitting Control-Alt-Delete on your brain. Laughter can literally interrupt spiraling thoughts. When a traumatic memory tries to drag you down into a really dark, heavy place, your brain uses laughter to just snap you right out of it. It resets your attention to prevent a complete emotional overload. There's this incredibly powerful idea here. By turning your trauma into a joke, you are stripping the memory of its power to hurt you. Think about how empowering that is. You are subconsciously telling your brain that the traumatic event doesn't control you anymore.
You're taking a massive, terrifying, unmanageable experience and shrinking it down into a tiny, bite-sized joke. And who has authority over that joke? You do. You hold the punchline. You take the power back. But of course, this brings up arguably the heaviest societal judgment we face.
Let's look at Section 4, the empathy paradox.
It turns out psychology draws a massive, sharp line between how we outwardly express emotion and how deeply we actually understand and feel it inside. People often assume that your outward coping mechanisms, like the involuntary laughter or the dark jokes, must perfectly match your internal understanding. They think if you're laughing on the outside, you must be feeling totally light and carefree on the inside. They completely miss the intense empathy or high sensitivity you might be carrying. But let me tell you, that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. The crucial point here is that people who laugh in serious moments actually possess a highly sensitive mind. Emotionally sensitive individuals just react faster to things. They feel intense empathy, sometimes way too much, to be honest. Their bodies physically respond more strongly to stress. Because of this, laughter becomes an involuntary overflow. It's a reflex, right? It kicks in to keep you from literally drowning in that intense emotional awareness. Your dark humor is quite literally a sign of a brain desperately trying to survive immense emotional pressure. So, what does all of this actually prove about you? That leads us to Section 5, proof of resilience. It proves your endurance. People who have survived difficult experiences often develop what psychology calls stress inoculation. This is a state developed by surviving past struggles, which allows the brain to not panic so quickly. It lets you naturally detach and look at things logically when emotions are running incredibly high. Because you've faced intense pressure before, you've been inoculated against it. So while everyone else is panicking, your brain stays entirely grounded in the chaos. And that stress inoculation feeds directly into post-traumatic growth. This is a recognized psychological stage where people become mentally stronger because of their past challenges, not despite them. You've learned how to survive. You've learned how to adapt and rebuild. Your ability to turn profound pain into humor isn't a sign that you're broken. It's absolute textbook proof of post-traumatic growth. Your humor is the evidence of your endurance. I really want this thought to sink in today. You are not broken. You carry a mind that has learned how to process the absolute darkest parts of life and somehow still find a reason to smile. These coping mechanisms aren't flaws. They are incredible strengths built in silence, built in struggle, and built in moments that no one else ever saw. On this explainer, we don't judge how you survive. We celebrate the incredible, complex ways your mind works to keep you safe. If you want more real psychology analysis that actually helps you understand yourself, make sure you subscribe to our explainers, because understanding your mind truly changes how you live within it. And I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. If your darkest jokes are actually proof of your mind's greatest triumphs, what else about your trauma has secretly made you stronger? Think about it. What other supposed flaws are actually your armor? Keep exploring, keep learning, and as always, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I'll catch you next time.